So alignment is a term that you hear used a lot in the context of how people work together to produce something, but our experience is it's often very poorly understood. First off, alignment is not agreement. And very often, if you look at how the word is used, it's used as a synonym for agreement. Are we all aligned here? Well, what you're really asking is, do we agree with this? And if we mean agreement, we should just say agreement. Alignment is much easier to understand if you kind of go to a domain like sports or the performing arts. Both are common in having to often build teams, whether it's a basketball or football team, or it's a theater troupe or a music ensemble. And I guarantee you, in those domains, whether or not people agree is quite secondary. It's how they work together to produce the outcome. Are they effective as a team? Are they in a mode of action such that this person does this, and this person does this, and it actually kind of comes together in service of what the team wants to accomplish? So first off, think of alignment first and foremost as a concept that's rooted in action and outcomes, not ideas and agreement. Secondly, obviously, well, we're not talking about sports or the performing arts here. We're talking about people working together in a school. How do we go about developing alignment? And there I would say there's two kind of guiding ideas. First off, dialogue and better quality discussion is really important, because a lot of the processes we found build alignment come down to how we talk to each other, particularly when there's breakdowns, when things haven't gone well. That's why, we keep emphasizing this working together through the ups and downs. And ironically, it's often the downs where there's especially kind of windows of opportunity to really build alignment. Normally in those times people feel badly, something didn't really work, it's natural to start pointing fingers or feeling guilty, God, I let the team down. Okay, that's fine, that's part of the emotions that are natural when things didn't work out. But how we come together and really talk productively, what happened? What are our different views about why it happened? What could we do differently? Those are super simple questions, but they're very, very powerful. What happened? What are our different views about how it happened? What can we do differently? If you start to develop a discipline of respectfully talking about difficult outcomes, things that didn't work well, with those three guiding questions, and what I mean by respectively, really listening to each other, really taking in the fact that people see it differently, but then you got to come to some kind of, okay, how do we want to do it differently going forward? Those are some of the most core processes that build alignment, because they really do help us think about our action and what we're actually achieving. And then, of course, the second thing is very simple. Get back to work. Conceive of an experiment, get to work, try it a new way. So you can think of this building alignment as a never-ending process that really is the learning process in some way, but it's the learning process at a collective level. So we did something, an outcome was achieved, it was or wasn't what we want, particularly if it isn't, we go back, we really think it through, and we try something new. But it's the we part of it that's really important in all that. That's the process whereby you're really building alignment. Now, one of the things that can easily arise in this process is people go, well, it all sounds really great, but I'm going to tell you, my boss was descended from Attila the Hun, and she ain't ever going to go for this. So it's very natural that a team working together to create this kind of a culture of continuous learning and innovating will also encounter impediments, one of which is they have bosses that don't seem to get it. Now I'm going to tell you what normally happens in that situation. People go off and have a coffee or a beer or 13 glasses of wine and they complain a lot. They sit around, they all talk about how, our boss is just clueless and stupid and we're not going anywhere. So I just want to point out the obvious. That really doesn't help very much. You may do it, and it may make you feel a little better for a while, but it ain't going to make you feel much better the next day. Because the next day, you're right back where you were when you started to complain. So complaining and all, well, fine. And you could call it optional, not mandatory, and generally often not very helpful. What is much harder and is much more helpful is if you really have a concern about someone in an important position who really seems to be blocking or could block what you're doing, I would go and talk to her, talk to him. Ask them. This is where inquiry becomes really important for sustaining momentum through ups and downs. You really reach out and try to encounter these opposing forces and try to better understand them. I will predict 9 times out of 10, if not 99 times out of 100, if you really respectfully ask a person who you're concerned about really supporting this, what is it you're concerned about? You will learn something. You may or may not agree with them, but you will now have a little deeper understanding of what he or she is prioritizing. It may be as simple as, they're really worried it's not going to work, or they're really worried about how other people will think, or they're just concerned about something different, and you're over here and they're over here. Either way, you will be at least one small step ahead of understanding how this other person is thinking. Once you can start to understand a little better how the other person's thinking, you may come up with ideas. We've often found that 2 years down the road, some of the most important champions for significant innovation were actually people who were quite opposed initially. But when you really understood why they were opposed because they just didn't think it would work. And they're actually really concerned, just as much as you and I, about the outcomes and what gets accomplished. They just had a different idea about the how. Sometimes you will find that they actually are really opposed, period. That's fine. That can happen, believe me. But my experience is that's the minority of the situations. The majority of the situations, you just have to appreciate what are the other person's concerns. And then you can find lots of ways to work with them. And generally speaking, patience will prove to be and perseverance, your two most important assets in any process of dealing with opposing forces.